Good.
You've
Good.
taken some time. You doing well?
I'm going to Wyoming in 3 weeks.
You do that like every year.
Last year it was Rocky Mountain National Park.
Okay.
This year we're doing the Grand Tetons.
Wow, nice.
And then we're going to France in October.
Get out of town. Literally getting out of town.
We are. I've been trying to go to Europe for 3 years. I've had to cancel it first it was England, then it was Spain. This year we're actually going.
And where are you going in France? Paris?
Actually, no. We're flying into Paris, but then I've reserved 2 nights. You know, we're going to Champagne, and then we're going to go over towards Strasbourg, the German side, the Alsace-Lorraine region,
Right.
and then we're going to go to the Loire Valley. It's just a week.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
rent a car and see some little towns. I really didn't want to do Paris.
Have you been?
No,
You've never been to
no,
Oh, Janice.
no. Haven't really been to France. So
Even the thought of going to Paris, I get all romantic, you know?
I would do Paris if it was just Paris. You know, like I'd spend a week there. But otherwise, I've got too many other things going on. So this is like more of a wine tasting, small town. You know,
Yeah.
French food. Okay. We are. I just recorded my entire conversation. All right. Yes, we're recording. That's embarrassing.
Thank you. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Montclair Planning Board. Notice of this meeting is given by publishing in the local paper designated by the township for notices. There's also a notice posted on the first floor of the municipal building, and electronic notice is also provided on the township's website. We are being broadcast live on Channel 34 and stream live, and will be available on demand on YouTube. We are conducting a quasi-judicial proceeding this evening, and which means that we have powers and responsibilities resembling a court of law, and we're obligated to objectively determine facts and draw conclusions from them in order to provide a basis for action. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that the board can legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate for a courtroom is expected to be maintained at all times. We have a short agenda this evening, so I will get on with it. And our first thing is a roll call, and I'm here.
Vice Chair Brodock,
I'm here.
Mr. Graham,
Here.
Mr. Ianwali,
Here.
Ms. Lockman.
Here.
Mr. Ortiz.
Here.
Mr. Pierre.
Present.
Counselor Schlager.
Here.
Ms. Willis. Here. Mr. Jacobson is excused. And Mr. Neiman.
Here.
We also have Mr. Neese.
Here.
Okay.
All right, we have minutes from our July 11th meeting.
Received comments and changes to the minutes from Ms. Lockman and Mr. Vice Chair Brodock. Are there any other changes? Okay.
I had one suggestion, if you just bear with me for a second. Where we included, but, you know, for the change in height from 6 stories to 4 stories in a C1, except for a redevelopment plan or zone, I don't think it needs to be said, because C1, it's either one or the other. But more importantly, moving forward, if an existing C1 zone property gets put into a redevelopment plan, it comes before us, and we get another bite at the apple. So we wouldn't say except for that, because we have to make sure that it conforms to the master plan, excuse me, when it comes to us.
Right. So
So I think it doesn't matter if you say except if it's in a redevelopment plan. It really doesn't matter.
But Tony, you know that, but somebody else reading these minutes would not know that. They would, they wouldn't have a clue. So I feel like if you're looking at that whole Bloomfield Avenue corridor, which is at C1, we want to make the exception so that people know that the redevelopment plan areas have their own zoning, special zoning.
Well, I guess, true, that's existing, but prospectively, if a C1 zone, if a property in a current C1 zone gets put into a redevelopment plan, it comes to us, and we still could have the opinion that it be only 4 stories.
But
So-
we're not expanding those redevelopment sites. They
Well-
are what they are, right, Janice? The plans have been developed and the
Any
properties have been included.
redevelopment, any property in the town, if it met the criteria of a redevelopment area, can be included. So prospectively, it might be minor, but I think our desire was to take C1 where C1 exists right now. C1 allows 6, was to move it to 4. That failed. But I don't think you need to say except if it's in a redevelopment plan, because the redevelopment plan is going to stand upon its own,
I
and it
think,
comes to us anyway.
I think what we're trying to distinguish is there are a number of properties that have been designated as areas in need of redevelopment. So it's not areas in a redevelopment plan, but it's areas that have been designated as an area in need of redevelopment, and the redevelopment plans have not yet been adopted.
Well, the minutes state redevelopment plan, they don't say redevelopment area. They say a plan which has zoning. So
So I
there's
think-
a,
Well, I think this might be easy to finish up, because that sentence refers to what the recommendations were from this board to the council. We should be able to go right back to our recommendations letter to the council and figure out how we worded it, whether it was redevelopment plan, redevelopment area, and that's, I think that would kind of put it to bed.
yeah, I think our intent was that anything that was in C1 would be moved to 4 stories. But if it's moot, but yeah, I suppose you could say it, if it's already in a redevelopment area and that has an adopted redevelopment plan which dictates new zoning, it's moot. Our recommendation has
Right.
no bearing whatsoever.
You're correct. I mean,
Right.
Tony is correct, but
Yeah, I agree.
If you want, I don't have the report with me. We could table adopting these minutes to the next meeting, and I can look at what the report to the council said.
I think there should be consistency between what the minutes reflect and what the report
Right.
says. So I don't think we have to table it. I think you just have to you have to
Okay.
adjust the wording to reflect properly. I don't think we have any disagreement about what the recommendation is. It's just what we're having our minutes reflect.
I think my main point is that if there's another property in an existing C1 that gets put into a redevelopment area with a redevelopment plan, we have 45 days to determine whether it comports with the master plan or not.
Right.
So we have another shot at what we wanted.
Mhm. Okay. So I will amend the minutes to match the report that was
Just to
sent
make
to the
sure.
council, to make sure.
If they
Okay.
don't match already.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as has been discussed and amended tonight? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
I assume Mr. Ortiz is abstaining because he wasn't there.
Yes, yes.
And we next have a resolution on Ascend Wellness Holdings.
So we distributed the resolution, thank you, Arthur, to the members of the planning board. And I know that a couple comments were received from Keith, and I believe from Carmel as well, and Michael Graham as well. I'd like to suggest a further clarification on page 5. Page 5, number 5. My suggestion would be, number 5 is one of the conditions. It says, following receipt of all required municipal approvals. I think we need to clarify municipal approvals. This is a new process. And my suggestion would be following receipt of all required municipal approvals, including but not limited to final township approval of the cannabis license application. That's what I suggest adding, because that's really the ultimate approval. Conditional use, the conditional use permit is not the approval for them to start operating tomorrow. It's the license. So it's just a clarification that that's what the municipal approval is, that would be required for them to operate.
I have one question. Did everyone hear that they have 75 to 90 employees? Wow, okay, I missed that.
But
I
not working all at one
That's
time.
Okay, okay.
That's total number of employees, and I forget how many would be on each shift.
They're working 7 days, they would be open 7 days a week.
It still seems like a lot. But I would have said wow at the time, but I.
So I haven't been there, but I'm told that the Rochelle Park is on Route 17, and when you go down Route 17, it's a traffic jam. You have to, it slows Route 17 down to a crawl because so many people are going into that dispensary.
Wow.
What is the square footage of that dispensary as opposed to ours that might be here?
I couldn't tell you, I haven't been in there, you know, unless you think I look high, but I'm not.
Ooh, just wondering if we would have that here with a big facility like this.
It seems like it's a rather popular destination, let's put it that way.
So the 75 at plus, I didn't see that anywhere, but that's just for this storefront?
Well-
That was, the testimony was maximum of 75 employees when they expand to the entire,
To the
Right.
three,
First floor
the
of
three
the building.
spaces?
yeah.
Where will they park, those employees? Okay.
Parking deck.
We were told that plenty of parking.
That one?
We were told that it had plenty of parking.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know, well.
But I think
Feb-
that also
February.
gets to the point I was trying to make, Arthur, in the comment that I sent. They were talking about potential curbside pickup for individuals who might have a disability and be unable to enter the store.
Right.
I just want to make sure we clarify that that's only if they're not impeding traffic. And with that bump out by that store, I don't know if it's actually feasible.
Well, I went back, after I got your email, I went back and I went through the video, and that line of testimony was in response to Robin's questions. And I had the sense from the witness that he wasn't sure if the bump out was going to remain, that there could have been some change to that bump out. I don't know if there's any plan afoot to change that bump out.
Absolutely not.
And regardless, I think we should state, I think we
We
should state.
fought for that bump out.
Yeah, and I think we should state clearly that as long as there is a bump out, as long as they're unable to park unimpeded, and within, I believe the law said they have to be in front of the store so they can be videoed bringing the product out, that there's no curbside pickup.
That was also the testimony,
Yeah.
right, that there's a video cam on the front,
Yeah.
and it was really designed, or the testimony suggested it was only for people who had mobility issues.
Yes, and I think we should make sure we specify that in the resolution.
Do you wanna take a crack, you wanna try some language, and you're talking about footnote 1 on page 3?
Yes.
So, and you were the developer of that line of testimony as well, I didn't mean to.
Oh, I don't recall, I do remember Robin, I may have thrown in a question or two, but regardless, I think we should just specify.
Do you wanna have any, do you want to suggest?
I'm
any
happy to
language?
take a shot, Arthur, but,
Have a
you know.
good, have at it.
Okay. All right, but I like when you take the criticism for the language and not me, you know, so. I'll do my best, I'll see what I can put together. All right.
Well, now is the time. So you want,
Oh, right now?
oh yeah, you're on the spot.
Oh. I would just say that no curbside delivery of any cannabis product will be permitted so long as there is a curbside bump out, and no cannabis delivery shall be permitted outside of the area that is under video surveillance. How's that?
In other words, beyond the storefront where the camera is located.
Yes, it must
And it
be,
could be on the next 3. I don't know how they're gonna set it up, but on the next 3 storefronts.
but it must be in an area that is under video surveillance by the store.
I think that's required anyway.
I believe
under
so,
the-
I just want to
under
make
the
sure that we're
regs.
reiterating, so.
And that it won't obstruct traffic.
And it won't obstruct traffic.
My only concern with that language is bump out is kind of vague, and so being clear about either what that actually means in the context, whether it's a certain number of feet in
Great
the front
point.
of the storefront, whatever it may be.
You need a definition of bump out. This person right here is
It's
going to
really-
tell you.
have you been there?
No, I know exactly what it is, but I'm saying in the language, just saying a bump out in whatever
It's the
time in the
bumpy-
future.
It's the bump out for the pedestrian crossing. I think
There you
there's
go.
even gonna
Bump
be a
out for the
light.
pedestrian crossing and will not impede traffic.
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
You can't.
Bump out for.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
just clarifying that it's X number of
The
feet in front of
existing
the.
bump out. Okay.
If I might just modify that slightly, because I think you said that you cannot have pickup so long as there is a bump out. But I think it's okay if there's a bump out as long as the cars can park in a parking, designated parking or loading area.
Right,
Not
and-
necessarily whether
He
there's a
said
bump out or
loading
not.
area.
But
That's
that
what
bump
he
out,
said.
but that bump out,
The
It-
witness.
Yes, it's a loading area in front of the, at least in front of the current occupied premises.
but if you look on Google Maps, in front of that bump out, there's a no parking sign, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know where they would possibly be able to pull up and I don't think there is a loading zone for there.
So
for
it says,
them.
that sign, I've got it up, it says no standing anytime,
No
30-minute limit,
Oh.
which kind of conflicts, but it doesn't.
Is
No
it in
one said
front,
this town is consistent, okay?
is that area in front of one of the storefronts?
It's kind of just beyond from what I can see.
Yes.
So then I think
Um,
if we include the part about being in an area that is under video surveillance in front of the storefront, that'll probably solve that issue.
Okay. Are there any other changes?
You did good.
Thanks, Arthur.
Do we need to read that, or we can,
No, I'll, if you
You'll-
want, I'll,
absolutely, you go ahead. Is there a
you always do that. That's nice of you. Thank you.
is there a motion to approve the resolution as amended?
So moved.
Who seconded it?
Ms.
Carol?
Willis.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, good.
So Janice, before we move on, and since we're talking about resolutions, I have a question for you. And it's a
Okay.
real-life question. Today, I had asked you for a copy of the Mountainside Hospital resolution.
Is your microphone on?
Yes, I had asked you for a copy of the
Yeah.
Mountainside Hospital resolution that you guys were involved with. So for the
Yes.
last year and a half, the neighborhood has had a problem with them picking up garbage at 4:15 in the morning, 3:15 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, whereas the ordinance says, and I think it's a mistake, but the ordinance says that but sanitation has to be removed at either 7
Wait, whose
a.m.
ordinance?
I'm sorry, the resolution
Okay.
says the sanitation pickup has to be either at 7 a.m. or 9 a.m. And I think you probably mean 7 to 9, but it says 7 or 9. So my question is, how do we get that kind of enforcement? Since they are violating this over and over again, they've been sent emails about it, and they're not changing. They say that they're gonna change the construction, not the pickup company, but it still happens. And I've sent emails, the neighbors have sent emails, we've contacted them over and over again, and yet they continue to pick up this garbage at that hour, and it's really noisy. It wakes everybody up. And it's a quality of life issue, it's a violation of the resolution. So my question is, with respect to resolutions, how are they enforced? Here we are going through this resolution with lots of, contingencies, but how are they enforced? I
Is
mean,
the area where the garbage is stored, is it in Glen Ridge or is it in Montclair?
it is in Glen Ridge, but it was
So
a
isn't
joint, yep, sorry.
But it would be an enforcement issue for Glen Ridge, I think. Because
Well,
we can't, Montclair
know.
can't cross the municipal boundary. I mean, you understand.
I do, but the parking, they have to go through the parking lot, which is in Montclair, to get to the
But it's not the
garbage.
travel through the parking lot that's causing the problem.
Well, kind of.
But you
yeah.
said that that the neighbors have gotten in contact and sent letters. Has it been to the hospital or has it been to
No,
Glen
we've been
Ridge?
directly to Hampshire.
So, if Hampshire isn't responding,
They respond. They say they're
Well,
gonna do
they're-
something, but they never do anything, yeah.
But, so then the next issue, I think, would be to talk to Glen Ridge
Okay,
and see what Glen Ridge has to say about it. I mean, Montclair will certainly stand behind, I would think in terms of, what's going on. But if they're doing the action in Glen Ridge, it's just like when I used to live across the street from the park, County Park, I couldn't call Montclair Police because I had to call Essex County Sheriff's Office to come and deal with noise and things that are in the park.
Yeah.
And it's jurisdictional.
okay.
Carmel, if you have anything, in writing, in email, you could send it to me and I could forward it to the Borough Administrator in Glen Ridge.
I've done that. I've sent it to Glen Ridge. I'm waiting for them to respond.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll copy you. I'll send you it anyway, so maybe someone in
I
Montclair
can
can
bring
do
it up with
something.
them and say, what are you doing? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We have a pretty good relationship with Glen Ridge, so. Okay. Okay.
So the application on Seymour Plaza, it's not going to be heard this evening. They're going to refile on that, and that was indicated on the minutes. On the agenda for this evening. Our next thing is for committee reports. Do we have any committee reports that we need to discuss?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss the committee report from the zoning subcommittee. We finally sat down and talked about the recommendations in the Board of Adjustment reports that were submitted for 2019 and 2020. I'm sorry, 2020 and 2021. I think there was because we had some change in personnel working with the Board of Adjustment, it said that the same recommendations were in the 2020 and 2021 report that were in the 2019 report. And most of those, when we actually went through them in detail, we've actually resolved a lot of their issues. And I think if you look in the memo that was sent in your packet, you see a lot of these were resolved with zoning ordinance changes that took place in 2021. But number one, the zoning board, again, asked that we review our parking standards. They've asked for us to do that in the past, and the planning board has said, no, at that point, we felt comfortable keeping the parking standards the way they were. The council council recommendation made some changes to how the parking requirements are managed, which is now in place. So I don't really think when I met with the zoning subcommittee, we didn't feel the need to go over the actual parking standards. However, what has changed are the requirements for electric vehicle parking spaces with electric vehicle charging stations. And we talked about how to best incorporate that in our ordinance. And I think the consensus is it's best to do it by reference rather than mimic what the state requirement is. As we've discussed in the past, the state has established what the requirements are, what the parking bonuses are for spaces that have electric vehicle charging stations, and we're not allowed to touch those according to the statute. So the decision was to simply amend the ordinance, and I'm going to try and work this out to include a link to the state's website where their model ordinance is that has the requirements in it. And it's really just to add to a statement to section 34710D in our code, which has to do with design of parking spaces, and basically to add another requirement that electric vehicle service equipment and make-ready parking spaces shall be provided as required in the DCA model statewide municipal electric vehicle ordinance. Okay? There's no questions about that.
Makes sense.
It's pretty simple. The next recommendation we evaluated was that the properties, and this is coming from the Board of Adjustment, that the properties that are currently in the office residential 4 district on the east side of Valley Road, south of Bloomfield Avenue, this is over near Valley and Bloom, near the circle, be rezoned as recommended in the adopted land use and circulation element of the master plan. Well, first of all, the circulation element of the master plan is pretty broad, or the land use plan is fairly broad. It focuses not on specific uses, but more on, building scale, building heights, and site design. So if you look in the master plan on page 2 of the memo, essentially it puts those properties in a C3, in a C1, I think it's the C3 district, which is really consistent with either the NC zone district, which is what the zoning board wanted to see, or the OR4 district, which is what it is right now. Both zone districts include a maximum height of 3 stories. The difference between the 2 zone districts is the NC zone district, which is what the Board of Adjustment wants, permits retail on the first floor. The OR4 zone, OR4 zone permits either office on the first floor or residential on the first floor. And if you look at the uses that are in this area right now, there are a variety of uses. There are residential structures. Some of them are still used as residential uses. And the majority of them, if they have a commercial use, they're office. So, my recommendation was it didn't seem to make sense to put it in a district that allowed retail on the first floor. The zoning subcommittee agreed and felt that the current zoning was the preferred direction for those particular properties. I don't know if anybody.
One question, Tony. Is that building there, is that a non-conforming use because it's in the old R4, or is that?
Which building's that?
It's one with very adequate parking because it's a building, it's a business, and it's right off the parking.
That's actually in the C1 zone. That's not,
That doesn't count.
that's not, yeah, we're keeping that in the C1 zone. That's not in the OR4. That's where the yogurt shop
The
is.
yogurt,
That's
and,
why I couldn't think of.
and there's
Yeah.
a dentist upstairs.
With the-
Yeah.
Right.
So that's not affected by this
That would
law.
not be affected because that's still in the C1 zone.
But some of those are private houses. The house direct to the right of the yogurt store is
Yeah.
a private house.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it has a very residential appearance, and I think
Yeah.
it makes a nice transition between Bloomfield Avenue and the redevelopment area and Church Street. It's kind of quiet. You've got some, you always need a little niche of office uses, and it kind of works. You've got some very historic buildings there, too,
Yeah,
so.
okay. That makes sense.
And the zoning board didn't say why.
I think they heard an application, where one of those owners wanted to put a retail use on the first floor, and they said they couldn't find an office tenant. They really wanted it, so it was, I think they argued that it was difficult for them to put a tenant in that building. So they thought it might be more appropriate to change it to a retail zone district. But, our office market's pretty strong right
But-
now.
But can they, could they grant a variance for it to be a retail? If there was.
They would have to get a use variance.
Yeah, okay, so it's doable.
It's
but you'd have to
doable.
go, yeah.
Yeah. Again, they make this is item number 3, the Board of Adjustment recommends. Now, bear in mind that the Board of Adjustment annual report goes to both the council and the planning board. So this is just, I'm working with you to respond to their issues. The council would do their review separately. So the Board of Adjustment wants the council to implement recommendations in the land use plan and supports those changes to be made as soon as possible. As you know, we've been working for quite a few years to try and make these changes little by little. And the council doesn't always agree, so it's something that we continue to do. And it's not unusual for a planning board to adopt a plan that's not fully endorsed by the council. Am I correct?
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah, so
We never do.
we keep trying. We keep knocking on the door. So, so it's not like there's anything wrong, it's just how things run, Not everybody agrees, and we will continue to try and make changes and continue to evaluate the master plan. So,
Is the master plan due for another reevaluation at any point upcoming?
No,
No?
it's every 10 years, and our last reexamination was in
16.
2016.
Yeah, okay.
But we are working on an amendment to the master plan to prepare the climate change-related hazard vulnerability assessment.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
so we will be coming back to you on that. We've been working with Jake and with Keith and some other members of the Environmental Commission on that, and Tony as well.
Say it, Tony.
Janice, speaking of the master plan, does the, tomorrow, I know the council's having their reading of the changes that they're adopting.
Right.
That doesn't foreclose them in the future voting on other recommendations that we've made
Oh, no.
for changing the master plan, right? So this vote doesn't mean that those other recommendations are moot, right? We still, they're still part of the master plan. They don't have the force of the council, though, right? Is that
That's still
essentially
part of the
what's?
master plan.
Mhm.
As you probably know, things change, people
Yeah.
change, elected officials change. So that's why the master plan is not a document that just sits on a shelf. It's
Yep.
something that we revisit regularly because of things that change and policy directions change. The council in 2 years from now may change their mind or decide that they want to go in a different direction, so we don't know. But this is where we are right now.
I understood. It's just that you mentioned the EV parking. I'm thinking of 10 Elm Street. I'm thinking if they had done more EV parking, maybe they could have thought of a way to sneak in additional electric vehicles and stuck with the 6 stories. So it
Although
just,
there's a cap on how you can get bonuses.
oh, there is?
That's
Okay.
already capped in the state
Okay.
regulations.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay? Item number 4, this is very technical. The Board of Adjustment recommends the definition of half-story be more clearly defined. We actually did redefine it back in 2021, but Tommy, as the assistant planner, took a look at it, and he said, there's another area that needs to be clarified. So he suggested that we get rid of section 347.23, height exceptions that relates to half stories, and actually incorporate it into the definition so it's all in one place. So that's the recommendation in number 4, is to deal with the height exceptions relating to half stories actually in the definition.
One minor suggested change.
Sure,
Under the definition of half-story, third line from the bottom,
yeah.
I think it's supposed to be in first 2 words, dormer and dormers.
Which one is it?
Third line from the bottom.
A dormer. Oh, you're
Right,
right,
dormer
dormer.
and dormers.
You're right.
That's all.
Very, very good, good catch.
I was trying to beat Ms. Lockman to that if I could.
Thank you. So number 5, we've already addressed. Recommendation number 6, we've already addressed. Recommendation number 7 was addressed. Number 8 was also addressed. So I don't think we really need to talk about them because we spent the time in 2021 to address all those recommendations. However, I have found, since we're talking about this, there's an issue in the zoning ordinance. In 2021, we added a definition, we put in the definition section, a definition for average, what is the definition? It was for permitted lot width of structure, permitted width of structure. Because the structure could be no more than 25% of the lot. So we actually put that in the definition. However, we didn't change the requirements in each of the zone districts to match the new definition. So that's why I'm recommending that we make a change to 2 zone districts where that maximum width of structure is addressed in the zoning, in the individual zoning code for that, or zoning district, to get rid of the definition section, which says frontages of any one point measured parallel to the street line, because now we don't measure it at the street line, we measure it at the building line. So get rid of it, and then just replace that with as defined in the definition section. It's just a clarification so that our code is consistent. And that's it.
I think we're scaring Kevin away with all this technical
exciting
stuff. It's
stuff
usually
we do
more
here.
fun than looking at definitions and stuff.
Okay. All right. Our upcoming meeting, our next meeting will be a public hearing on an area in need of redevelopment for the municipal building. So just giving you a heads up. The reports are prepared. They're posted on the township website. Public notice has gone out. It's been in the paper. We've notified the township.
So what's
Since
going
we're-
on? I
we're the
missed
owner.
that.
The council asked the planning board to conduct a redevelopment study, an investigation of this property and the PNC Bank property next door, which we own, as well as the bank, the property that contains the residential home, which we also own, next to the parking lot. So those 3 lots.
You mean
to-
that house right there?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they
Okay.
yeah.
The town leases it to the Salvation Army.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So they're looking at doing something with this for municipal center?
A
Is
new
that what's
municipal
going
building.
on? Wow.
So we'll have that meeting at the next planning board meeting. I did let the Salvation Army know what's going on.
That
So they're,
potential,
because they were not notified since they don't own the property, but I said, in case you hear.
Oh,
you
that's
know,
my big
We're not trying
bugaboo.
to pull the wool over your eyes. It's a
Mm.
study that we're conducting.
We don't tell tenants, we just tell owners, and it's a problem, because
Yeah.
tenants could live in a place for 30 years, and all of a sudden, the rug is pulled out from under them, and they don't hear, but their landlord might hear, but
Right.
do they always tell the tenants? No. So, but this is good, yeah.
Yeah, nobody lives there.
Yeah,
It's-
no, I'm just saying
Oh,
in general, this is
oh.
I've said this before, I
Yeah,
guess
oh,
I'm a
yes,
broken
you-
record here, but I
I
always feel
understand.
like notice should also go to tenants as well as property
I
owners, in
understand.
case they have, and they also might have really good input if they came before the board, but whatever.
Right. So that's at our next meeting. Okay?
The consultant.
No, excuse me?
Is this to hire the consultant who'll be doing the study to determine whether it's an area in need, or has it been?
No, we wrote the study. I wrote the study.
Oh, so it's been determined to be an area in need already?
It's
It has been determined to be an area in need?
No, no.
We're
It's-
reviewing the study that
Report has
proposes it
been-
be.
I
Okay,
prepared-
got it. Okay,
Right.
okay,
The
got it.
request came from the council.
Okay,
I prepared the report. I'll send it to, we'll be sending it, it's available online. We'll be sending it to you shortly, because that's what the next meeting is going to be about.
So I,
Okay?
And then we'll have a public hearing to get public reaction
Right.
to what's, then we'll figure out what we do from there.
Exactly.
So my question, since the town owns this land, why do they have to do a study to determine that it's in need of redevelopment? Why don't we you could look around, you could say,
Well, we'll
hey,
talk-
this would be
we
a great
can-
spot for municipal,
We'll talk
center.
about that at the next meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay? All right.
When is Summit coming back?
Summit has not told me when they're coming back. So, I'll let you know when I get the amended plans.
Let Eric know.
I'll let Eric know, yes.
All right, everyone.
We have payment of bills.
Oh, yeah. Motion to approve the bills.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
As always, my thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Got it.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. Use it wisely.
It's still light outside.